So this video here is going to cover how we closed a 160K per year contract for an agency. And for context, I'm the CEO of Scalesprints.io. We are a cold outreach agency and we work primarily with agencies and other B2B service-based businesses. So I'm going to cover what exactly we did to get a 160K per year deal. And essentially what we have here at ScaleSprint is our ScaleSprint system here, which is a full end-to-end cold outreach system that takes people from, completely cold traffic all the way down to the close. And we have the deal here from Slack where we were notified about it. And so I'm going to go through, first of all, here, the client and the offer. So this is a marketing agency, and they help Western tech companies and B2C brands enter Japan. So this is basically a service where it's, lead generation in a foreign market. And of course, it's high ticket. So why was this hard initially? Well, the Japan market is unfamiliar to most companies, and it's hard to create urgency, right? Like, it's very few companies that actively think about entering the Japanese market, especially because it's such a high barrier to entry market. And so, there's not obvious pain point to call out here. And so we needed very strong positioning. We didn't just need to brute force volume. This was more of a positioning play, and a lot of testing needed to go into this. So the first few months here, we were just in pure testing mode. So we tested multiple different industries. We tested different narratives. We tested focusing more on the B2C side versus the B2B side. So the focus here was just pure learning, gathering data systematically, not necessarily closing a ton of deals or generating a ton of leads. We just wanted to learn in this initial phase. So here's what didn't work. So most industries were curious, but not ready, right? So they would express interest, but they were not necessarily interested in moving forward anytime soon. And the B2C brands in particular seem to lack urgency around this offer. And the expansion messaging was just not enough. We needed a more growth-driven audience, essentially. The focus that we really got here ended up being SaaS companies. And so SaaS companies, they tend to think globally by default because they typically have products that are sort of geographically agnostic. Like, if they solve a problem and this is a common business problem, it's probably going to work in basically any economy. And so they're also used to investing in growth channels, especially if they're funded. So it's easier to tie expansion to revenue for these companies. And they're also more open to these long-term bets typically. And again, typically that will be true for the funded SaaS companies. So what we started doing is basically segmenting SaaS companies by their growth stage. So we had early stage SaaS testing new markets, growth stage SaaS scaling proven channels, later stage SaaS seeking international expansion. And the way that we did this primarily was by using Crunchbase. This is a database that has a lot of different SaaS companies, and they have a lot of funding data. So that's one of the primary sources we use to basically categorize them. So, for example, we had a campaign for like Series A, Series B SaaS companies, and, testing different stages here. And we also tested different triggers and messaging for each of these audiences. And we basically used specific case studies in some of our outreach for specific audiences to make it super relevant. So we also used AI to improve our targeting. So basically we made an AI through Clay analyze their websites, copy for growth signals. We looked for expansion language and intent in their social media posts and so on and so forth. We reviewed the news, funding, and hiring trends, flagged companies that seem to be moving fast. So this was one of those ones where we really wanted to look into the signals, and that became one of our main focuses as well. So the unique market position here did give us an advantage, right? Because very few agencies specialize in Japan. There's no crowded competitive landscape. Like, the open rate is super high. The response rate is high because it is quite unique. It stands out when you mention this in the copy. So there's clear differentiation in the outbound, and it felt rare and hard to replace, essentially. So the narrative that worked here was that Japan is something that we positioned as an underutilized opportunity. It's a large market with strong buying power, low competition for Western SaaS. So here's an example of one of our winning copies, which was like a broad copy for SaaS companies that seem to be basically distributing globally. So this was the copy. Would you be interested in generating more leads from the Japanese market? We're the only agency set up to help globally distributing SaaS companies like yours scale in Japan with launch plans customized for Japan's market dynamics, a demand engine delivering qualified leads on a regular basis, execution led by former Google, Microsoft, and Box.com talent fluent in Japanese and English. One SaaS company now books 10 qualified leads each week with our help. Another brought in 500 plus leads during their first launch week. Should we set up a quick chat? So this was copy focused on creating intrigue because this is a unique opportunity. And then also some social proof here. What exactly will happen? What do they get? And then we have talking about the actual benefit they want, which is, of course, more leads. So the pipeline results after consistent testing was that we had multiple conversations with qualified buyers, over 5 active deals in pipeline. Obviously, this was long sales cycles, but there was good intent. And recently, one deal closed at 160K per year. So the key lessons from this campaign is that cold email is not instant gratification. In some cases, you hit the mark straight away, and it's great. But in other cases like this, where it's more unique, you have to test for a bit. But the return on investment is going to be there if you stick it out. Also, unique offers still do require iteration. Just because there's this saying, just because you're unique doesn't mean you're useful. So your uniqueness is a benefit in your outreach for sure, but you also have to tie that to usefulness. And then market selection matters more than copy. I mean, I think a lot of people know now that your list is basically your outreach, right? So I would say the most important things are your offer and your list. And then the exact copy and script you use kind of comes as a secondary thing. And testing also compounds over time, right? So now we have a winning strategy. We have a winning strategy, and we got over the testing phase, and now it's much more intuitive and obvious how we scale from here and get more of those deals. So if you're interested in working with us, you can check out scalesprint.io. I will leave it in the description and the pinned comment. This is the system that we build for all our clients. This is the deliverable. It is a full, as I said, it's a full end-to-end cold outreach system that takes care of generating the leads, responding to them within 1 minute, calling them within 1 minute, following up with them on multiple channels, taking them not only just to the actual booking a call event, but also helping to nurture them after that, a pre-call flow, a thank you page, and so on and so forth to make sure that we also get your revenue. So we don't just optimize for leads, but we actually optimize for revenue. So if you want to check that out, you can do that. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a good day.